friends, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel and happy February. Are you getting ready for Valentine's Day? I know I am. It's an awesome opportunity to send out a little note to a friend or someone you love to tell them how important they are. So today I am going to be making really easy homemade postcards to send out for Valentine's Day, and they're going to have the twist of being a lover's eye postcard. And I had so much fun making these, and I want to make them with you. They take in an afternoon. You can make a whole bunch up. They're very, very inexpensive to mail. You don't have to worry about having all that happy mail energy where you're making, a folio or some kind of folded thing to put things in. This is just pure love note sending out to the world in a really cool format. So this is what they look like. Each one is different. They are homemade postcards using ephemera and little sentiments. And I write on the back and I put an address and a stamp, and they're ready to go. I love working in black because I think it's so mysterious with the lover's eye. And I'm going to show you how to make these today, because I think that how cool is it to get this in the mail right before Valentine's Day? It is a whole different kind of Valentine's vibe. And throughout the year, you could send these as friendship tokens and notes, little love notes that you can put out in the world. And I think they are just so striking. So let's get to work, and I'll tell you the things we need for today's project. So I have a few kits in the shop right now, and I'll link that video below where I go over those kits. But please know you do not need kits for this project. You can use your own ephemera. You can use stamps, fussy cuts from your other kits that you have, fussy cuts from book illustrations. You can use art books for the eyes. Be creative. You can source your own creative material, and it doesn't have to be a kit. I find two of the things that are non-kit related that I enjoy are all the Victoriana books that you can get by Cynthia Hart. Her books are chock full of images that are all Victorian and could be fussy cut out and used for projects. You can get them on thrift books and other places. You can get them at op shops. She has so many of these types of books. And see, this one I bought, it was already cut. And I got it only for a couple bucks. And it's just full of images that can be used. And then I really like these Antiquarian sticker books that you can find online. When they first came out, they were quite pricey, and they can still be very pricey, but I have found them very inexpensively if I follow them. Like if I put them in my cart and just follow the pricing, a lot of times they will go down, especially around a holiday. And you can find them secondhand now on thrift books and other places. And what I love about them is that their images are so interesting and different. They're all Victorian, or a lot of Victorian. See, there's an eye. But they're also matte paper, and the colors are wonderful. So these are two sources you can use if you don't want to use a kit. Okay, so why do I love postcards? Well, I love postcards because they're cheap to mail out internationally and in America. And also I love them because you don't have to expend a massive amount of energy into them. They're quick to make. There's not a lot of room to write, so you don't have to spend all this time crafting a letter. And you're just sending a little hello in the mail that is so unexpected to people. And from one piece of cardstock, you can get 2 postcards and enough room for a note card or a folder if you want to do something like that later, or you can get 3 postcards and just cut this side down. I like to use a heavy cardstock because it is going through the mail. We'll be gluing things on the top, so it will make it sturdier, but you don't want to go too light because it just won't make it through the mail. And I found this in my stash. It was a black cardstock that already had white decals in it, like white splatters in it. It's part of the paper, I guess. And what I did is I'm showing you the lines here because I want to show you how I cut it down, but I really only made a dot where I needed to cut it because I didn't want this white line to be in my card, or if I used cream cardstock, I didn't want a pencil mark in there. So I just make a dot. You know, I put a postcard down and I dot here and I dot here and I dot here and I do the same down here. These two dots are the same, and then I just cut it on my cutting board. And I make a stack of cream and black cardstock that I can then use for the postcards. So what we start with are two very plain postcards. Now the other things I'll be using are old stamps. I'll be using washi tape, ink, because I like to ink the sides, and just glue. And the stickers, like I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. The other thing that I am going to do is just use sentiments that I found online. You know, love sentiments that either had a sentiment about an eye or a sentiment about love. And I just printed them off, put them in a Word doc, printed them off, and cut them out. It was just like easy peasy. Everybody can do that. So let's start with something really simple. I am going to have some stamps, a piece of love note paper, which I'm just using a print off of one of the pages of my kit, and I'll link the kits below, and I'll also link a little video I made that introduces the kit, so if you're interested in that, you can see it. But you could use any handwriting. You could use it from a ledger or from wherever. I fussy cut out a beautiful woman, and this comes from my kit, but you can find beautiful women everywhere. I have a lover's eye, and I have this little quote that I really liked. Sometimes the heart sees what is invisible to the eye. And that's going to go on there as well. With black cardstock, I like to use these Jelly Roll pens that are in white. So let's get started. So the one thing I will say about making a postcard is that you have to make sure that everything is glued down very, very well, because it's going through a machine, and you don't want the edges to get caught. So the first thing I do is I make sure my fussy cuts are clean. I'm going to trim off any part of the fussy cut that I think I can do a little bit better trimming on. And then I start just playing around with the layout. Like what would be a good layout for these items. I think I like the words behind her head, and I have to make sure that I have enough room for the quote, so maybe we'll move her just over like that. And I like to sort of lay it out ahead of time so that I have a plan of action. And what I can see first and foremost is that the love note piece needs to be, I don't like how this edge is straight, so I'm going to rip that so it has an unstraight edge. And I like it coming out from behind her head. I think it makes it stand out more. So I will take the glue stick and I will make sure that all of it covered with glue. And I'll just, before I press it down, I'll make sure it looks like, oh, I wanted to put dark ink on that. This is not ideal, but I do it from the top so I don't get any glue on that. I'll ink it. How the edge is not straight. I'll press that down. Now I need to make sure there's enough room for my quote. So I'm going to use art glitter glue, or a version of that, for the girl, because again, I really want to make sure this is stuck down super, super good. And I think I do want the quote a little bit behind her. And I'm going to ink just the edges. I'm stamping a little bit of like splatter marks on there. I want to slip that behind her shoulder, I think. I'm not going to glue it down yet. And I want to make sure I know where I think this eye should go. I think it needs to be connected into the collage. So I'm going to put the eye down. Well, actually, I think I'll put the quote down and not glue every little part of it so that I can slip this behind. I want to connect that behind just a little bit so that it all is connected into. And then the last bits will be, make sure that this is down good, is putting the stamps on. And I like the stamps because they're just such a nice little way to add some original ephemera, some, actual old ephemera. I love that they look like little art pieces. And I have to find where I think that fits. And she's prettier. Like, I like the face there. I think I'm going to add her up here, this one up here. I might add a little edge, a little burst of color right there with a little purple. And then I'll trim that from the back. Okay, so then the last point is I take my little jelly roll and my little jelly roll pen. And I like to sort of just make some scratchy lines around some of the things in the picture. I just like how that looks. And if you don't like that, you certainly don't have to do that. That's just sort of my little chicken scratch, adding to it a little motion, a little... Not everybody cares for stuff like that. You could also put a little bit more, a few more like little magical dots on the art. I just think it adds that hand mixed media touch to it. And there's the front of the back of the postcard. So then on this side, you just make sure everything is trimmed out. And then you can take any flat edge. And this is what I do. I don't like to make the line here because I'm not sure how much space is over here for the address. I don't like to do it this way because then I'm losing track of how much space I have to write. So I figure out I could probably write an address here. So I slide this up, and then you can make a line down it, or if you want it to be a little bit more creative, you could just make some dots so you can see that. And I'm going to make hearts here. You could do whatever it is you wanted. I think on this one I did little squiggles and hearts. This one I used washi tape. You just need to separate the two sides. And then on this side, I can decide what do I want to put on here for some little embellishments before I write my card. So maybe I can go into some of my fussy cuts or look in my sticker sheet, in my sticker book, and get a sticker. Since the whole point of this for me is the lover's eye, I think I would like to put a lover's eye on here. But you could put anything you want on here, right? You don't have to use a lover's eye. I'm just going to put that in the corner. And then with my pen, I'm going to put the date, February 2024. And it's ready for me to write out and then write an address and put a stamp on. So that's postcard number 1. So here I have the sentiment. The eyes are the windows of the soul. And I have a couple lover's eyes that I printed out from my kit. And again, you don't need to use lover's eyes. If you're making love notes and you don't want to use lover's eyes, you can use whatever you want. You could use hearts, you could use cupids, you could use die cuts. Really, you could use anything. I think what I really love about the eyes are how graphic they are and how eye-catching they are. And I don't mean that in a pun way. I've always found eyes to be very, like, such a striking visual. I have some embossed paper here, which I think I'm going to glue on, which is, again, only going to strengthen this card in the mail. And a piece of ripped love letter paper from the kit, but again, you can use any paper you have. This is not a big enough piece of embossed paper, so I'll have to deal with that. And I think I like this stacked like this. So what I'm going to have to do, I don't think I need all this embossed paper because look at, I'm going to be covering so much of it, and I don't want to waste paper where I don't need to waste paper. You know, like I don't need to use all of it if I'm coming across. So where would I come across with this? I think I can cut off a little strip, which is fine. I can use that little strip somewhere else. Normally I wouldn't make embossed paper precious because I can always emboss more, but this was gifted to me, so I don't have this die. Like I don't have that folder, so now I definitely want to use, I think I'm going to use Fabri-Tac in this because I really want this piece to stay put. And the mail can be quite harsh in a machine, especially if it's going internationally. So you have to really make sure that this stuff is glued on well. And then the edge can go here. So I'm going to ink that. And then glue on this. And I probably don't. And again, it's a big piece of paper, so that's why I'm going to use Fabri-Tac on this, because I just really want to make sure the edges are down. Oh, I'm going to leave this up because, you know what, I'm going to put a little piece of washi tape there. And I always put glue under washi tape. Even though washi tape has glue on it, I find in the mail, I don't know if you guys do, it never lasts. Like, it just isn't durable enough to last without coming up in the mail. So I always put glue under my washi tape. I should have put that down first. to make sure I have plenty of glue on this one. And then I can put down this layer. I actually don't like that. Pull that up. You know, as you're working, you can always change, right? If something's not working in a collage, or you just don't, you're not feeling it, like you're feeling like, yeah, that does not look right to me. Pick it up, peel it up. There is no right or wrong. You got to feel it. So I'm going to add that right there. I'm actually going to add it on the card because this is bigger than the card. And I'm going to trim it from the back. Let me trim this. I have this little bit of white here I don't like, but we're going to deal with that after. And I have these two lover's eyes that I really liked. And I like a sentiment on a diagonal. So maybe I will just do that. It's a very simple design, but I really like it. I just need to fill this in. I'm going to trim down the postcard. Welcome to the imperfect world of my craft desk. When something isn't perfect, you make it better. I just used my trimmer and just cut a hair off. It's not going to affect the postcard that much, and that little line won't bother me. So I have these stamps too. We'll deal with those after. So I could do it this way and put the longer eye here and the shorter eye there. Let me push you in. Whatever I do, you would probably have a different preference, some of you. Or I can do the smaller eye here and the longer eye there. I think I like the longer eye under here and this down like that. So I'm going to place this eye almost completely down, but not keep the edge up because I don't know if I want the sentiment underneath it. And I want the sentiment to come on this. I'll just place that under the edge at the angle I want. And because this one is a little on top, I want this one underneath. I have these two stamps that are the color that I like. And maybe I'll just add those down there like that to add a little bit more balance on that side. Like so. Like that. I love the colors, the layering. Make sure everything is down. If you really want to make sure that this would not get caught in a machine or have a problem, you can put on a very, very thin layer of Mod Podge. And, you know, they do sell matte if you don't want it to be shiny. I am not going to do that. I am just going to make sure everything is glued down. And on the back, it's the same thing, except now I like to use washi tape. And I think I'm just going to use I like to keep my washi tapes, especially the small ones, on these needlepoint rings. I learned that from Colleen Atara. She has them in her studio. and I find them very handy to keep together. I don't lose them because these smaller washi tapes are so easy to lose in your room, your work room. And I can still work with them just fine on there. So I just cut a bit off, and I just put a bead of glue down where I think I'm gonna need it. I like my divided backs to be generous for my writing and for a sticker, because I can write small with the address. And then I just trim that out. And then you could find an appropriate sticker for the back. And I can put the flower at an angle here. And then I can write around it and put my stamp and my address. And that's number 2. So we just made these 2 in a very short amount of time. And let's continue on. I thought I would make one that had a little bit less lover eye type of feel to it, so that you could kind of get an idea that you don't need to use lover's eyes. There is a tiny lover's eye in this because this, for me, is that project. But here's just a beautiful picture. And honestly, you could find a beautiful picture like this anywhere. And this is a piece of a calling card underneath, because I just fussy cut this out of my kit. But I'm sure people have calling cards, or you could make your own on your computer, or you can just take another really pretty piece of ephemera. And I thought what I would do is use this embossing paper again and have it on the back of a black card. And maybe I would add a little lover's eye right there, and a simple sentiment, and a stamp. Like, it doesn't have to be like a big fancy thing. I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to rip this time, so the edge is not so neat. Not that it matters with this picture being so big. And maybe I want her to come off the edge, and I'll just trim that out. As long as I don't trim too much of her out. Start the gluing here so I know about how far it is. Actually, I'll just do it on this, right? Sometimes I'm so obvious and I just don't even, I'm not realizing how silly I'm making something. Okay, glue that on, make sure it's on good. And I'm thinking I'm going to do some more Valentines, easy little Valentines. In fact, this morning in bed, I was thinking I will take out my polymer clay and make a video probably in the next week about how to make polymer clay hearts that you can give out on Valentine's Day, which are about as easy as they can be. Like literally a 4-year-old could make them. So I'm hoping to make that, and I'll put that on my channel as well. All right, so I'm going to angle her. Now, do I like that little black strip there, or do I want to cover it so she's not on the black strip? Well, let's see where the lover's eye would go. I would put the lover's eye here. And where would the sentiment go? Oh, maybe I'd put the ooh, I like that. I like that strip of black. Maybe I would put it like this and anchor that in that way. Okay, that's good. Again, I don't need to overthink this. This is a postcard. This is a cute little Valentine note that I'm just sending to a friend that doesn't have to be like overthought. It's just fun and relaxing, and the fun of Valentine's Day is sending greetings and love to people we care about and not overthinking things, right? So let me now put glue here on this. And slide it under the calling card. I really like that strip of black there. Now I want to put my lover's eye in here and make sure it's trimmed well. Again, you don't need a lover's eye. You could put a sticker there, right? You could put something really, just a cute little sticker, stamps, whatever. You could use black and white photographs. I just think anything that's super graphic looks great on a postcard, you know? And your mailman will be amazed. My mailman is always, I don't know what my mailman thinks of me. He's pretty patient with me. And I want to make, do I want that sentiment to be straight? No, I'm not a straight person. And I'm going to put that on the side like this. And now I'm going to trim it out so I can definitely see where my edges are. And then that way I can put the final touches on it. I have a couple stamps. I love these stamps because they're so graphic, and I love the lady on it. And I'd like to include a stamp somewhere on here. I think it looks good behind the calling card, or I can put it on top. Or I can put it down here and anchor it this way. It's interesting when you're making collage, right? You can see how your eye is traveling. So it's either going to go up and over, or it's going to be traveling in the same direction. And I think traveling in the same direction just works for me. It is just, you know, a gut thing. It's how you feel. And what I do is I let all of this dry, and then I go in afterwards with my art glitter glue, and I like pick up edges. I use my fingernail to test the edges, and I just add, you know, any additional glue that I need. There needs to be a little bit of white here just to separate this sentiment from the background. That's just me, again, my thing, but I like how it kind of borders it. And I could even do it here by this picture. I think that anchors it a little bit, and also gives it that you know, feel that I made this. This is homemade. And here is the postcard. And again, on the back, what can I put on the back? I can take my pen and make a line. And I can make a little vine on the line with little heart leaves. And for those of you who are ephemera collectors, there's going to be so little ephemera to find from this day and age because everything is digital. How fun will it be to see something that was handmade in somebody's collection one day? So that is this postcard. And again, I could put on a lover's eye if I wanted to. I could just add a little stamp. I could add a sticker. There's so many things I could do on this back. So again, let's see what I have in my sticker book. In the corner. And there is another one. So in one afternoon, I was able to make quite a few postcards, which I will show you in just a moment. But I'd like to summarize the process once again, especially because I know people watch videos, skim through a lot. So let's just put it in a nice, tidy package to wrap it up. You take your basic cardstock cut in a postcard size, you're layering all sorts of papers on one side of it. It's a great project for your scrap bin because the size of a postcard is small enough that it's going to accommodate a lot of scraps. You can source from kits, you can source from books, you can source from all over. You're going to make sure everything is glued down exceptionally well. And it's a really quick and easy way to make a love note or a place to write a message that is very inexpensive and easy to mail domestically and abroad. You just decorate the back with a line down the middle, so there's a place for an address and for your message, and that's pretty much it. Make sure everything's glued on well. Make sure that you don't forget a stamp, and let's go over what we made today. So here they are, guys. In about an hour and a half of time for me, these are the postcards that I made. So I have this one here, this one, which I think is probably one of my favorites. I just love the pink and taupe brown color. This one has multiplication paper from an old book and a letter. It has a tea card and some stamps. This one we did together on camera. This one I used embossed white paper in the back and details and fussy cuts. This one I did off camera. I really like this one. It has a little calling card and an eye, a beautiful picture, and I did sort of stitching lines with my white pen. This one is about friendship, and it has a letter and a calling card in the back, some old stamps, and then this one that we did on camera. So look at the selection of postcards that I have to send out. I have, I would say, 10 days to either hand them out or get them in the mail this week so that they can get to my pen pals. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it inspired you to make some homemade postcards for Valentine's Day. I will have all the links to the kits below if you would like them, and I'll even put a couple links to those books I mentioned at the beginning of the video. You don't need a kit. You can do this with your own ephemera, and I hope that you will send some notes out to people who you care about this Valentine's Day. I will hopefully be back with a video soon. Have a great week. Bye.